Hey everybody, and welcome back to another book review. I just finished a book that I wasn't expecting to even read, and that is called The Original Black Elite, the Daniel Murray story by Elizabeth Dowling Taylor. And it is it's more of like a textbook, or like something that you would definitely read in a history class about the Gilded Age. But the story, not really a story, but the book is about Daniel Murray, who was a very upper crust, wealthy, colored man in DC during the turn of the century, and kind of just going through his life. They don't have an exact birth date. He always said it was 1852. Most records say like 1851-ish, maybe 1850. So that was about when he was born. And then just kind of his life, meeting his wife, the children that they had, and then also just everything going on in and around DC, particularly the development of the Library of Congress, which Daniel Murray was very integral in creating. And so, yeah, it was just a really interesting look at Black people, colored people, and culture in that period. As you guys know, I've been kind of doing a little bit of a deep dive on like finding information about Black elite and Black culture in periods where we typically don't see that, particularly the Gilded Age, which is a period that I didn't really get into until recently. A lot of my historical knowledge comes from the early to mid 19th century, and then after the 1920s up through modern day, I'm usually pretty good. But you know, those are two kind of very interesting periods of American history. And I really liked at the end of the book, the author in kind of her epilogue is discussed how, one, Black people do not speak for all Black people, and so looking at this very wealthy group of elite Black people at this period of the turn of the century is not truly representative of every Black person in America, especially because this Black elite culture, they were kind of what you would consider the paper bag test, where, you know, they were lighter skinned for the most part, and you do have some folks that are darker that are kind of mixed in it, but for the most part they are much lighter skinned, and so they kind of thought of themselves as better because they were able to kind of move through society. But then as Jim Crow really takes off in the South and Reconstruction period dies out, and then for them to feel like, oh, y'all are just like hating on us because we're all Black, and looping all Black people into the same kind of vein. But like going back to, she's like, we don't speak for each other, and the Black elite thought that they could speak on behalf of Black people, and they really couldn't, especially because a lot of them, we always think of, you know, like, oh, after Reconstruction, Black people were able to rise up, and you know, we have, you know, them being very successful, going to college and all that thing, and that is true. We do have a lot of that, but there's still a good chunk of Black people who didn't do that. They, you know, they just had to work. So just kind of reminding us that, you know, like one section of Black people or one person in the Black community does not represent the entire community. And she also talked about the things that linger, you know, like I said, the paper bag test, if you will, and how that even in modern standpoint, in modern day, is still very much a thing of, you know, like when you're watching TV shows and movies and stuff, and you very rarely find Black people that are representative of like the whole color scheme of what blackness is, and we've started to see that a lot more in the last 10 to 15 years, but prior to that, you know, like, oh, you know, black best friend is very light skinned, you know, or even biracial, and you know, that like, oh, that ticks the minority box kind of thing. So yeah, it was just a very, especially the epilogue was just very, very interesting, and good things to remember as a historian, and just also as a person of color. And yeah, it was a really good book. I definitely give it like a 5, I think I gave it a 4.5 maybe out of 5, or a 5. Like I really didn't have anything negative to say about it. It was a very good book. Originally I started listening to it as just an audiobook, and then I was like, whoa, wait, what's happening? And so I had to go buy it to actually read it. It's just got a lot of really good information just about what's going on in the world at that time, and then also the development of the Library of Congress. I did not know all of that information, and how Congress functioned, how Black people in DC functioned, how some of the educational institutions in DC developed, and what they became, and how we got to them, especially like the high schools and the elementary schools and stuff. Just really, really fascinating. And I mean, I always say I'm gonna go back to DC. I went about 2 years ago for a conference, and I was like, I gotta go back to like actually like work my way through some things. But I really want to go and see the neighborhoods that are discussed in the book. I've, you know, been to DC several times in my life, and I just never, especially when I was a kid, I didn't get it. As an adult, I'm like, ooh, that sounds very interesting. So I do want to go back and do that. But yeah, like overall, really good book. If you are interested in finding out more about Black people in the Gilded Age, turn of the century period, or the development of the Library of Congress, and the development of a culture of Black eliteness. It's a really good book that kind of just gives you some really good points, and she's got tons of research and references in it. So yeah, The Original Black Elite by Elizabeth Dowling Taylor. Really good book, really enjoyed it. So that is it for this book review. Hopefully everyone is doing very well. Please continue to send book suggestions and ideas for things to read. I'm working my way again through the different series that have been on my list. Some series and some just single books. Some authors that I've read previously, and people are like, oh, you should read more of them. So working on that as well. And yeah, so I'm just really enjoying reading again. Also, if you would be interested, we have here at my school a book club that we are starting with the kids, and the kids are really excited. They just got their first book this week, and so if you would like to donate to the book club, I will drop a few links. We are still in need of books, especially because most of the grades are doing series instead of just like, you know, a bunch of different books. They're actually reading a whole series for a year. And so I am working with the 8th grade crew, and they're just starting Children of Blood and Bone, and we have a full set of that. We need the second book, and we need the third book. Much as I hated the third book, I'm going to make them read it. But we are going to need some copies of the second and third book, and I know some of the other grade bands are also missing a few copies here and there. So if you would like to donate, please reach out. I will put a donation link in the description, and you can reach out and donate through that. Outside of that, I look forward to seeing you in the next book review. Bye!